So this particular patient arrived for their treatment as per normal, and we do a temperature check on arrival as normal treatment as it is, and part of the COVID. She suffered from something called polycystic kidney disease. So basically her kidneys weren't working anymore. So we were taking over her treatment. She came in febrile, so that meant she had a high temperature and displayed a few cold-like symptoms. Renal patients do get temperatures because they have needles stuck in their arms 3 times a week, so they're prone to infections. But because of all the hype of COVID, we thought, we better do the right thing. But we didn't think that she would have been our first positive patient.
I'd had a few days off and she was admitted in that time. And one of my friends was with her in the night shift, and early in her shift she texted me and was like, hey, just a heads up, I think you'll be allocated the COVID positive patient tomorrow. I got handover, and aside from the COVID side of things and the, angst from the nursing handover about the COVID PPE process, her herself was quite well, and at that point in time really could have gone back to a normal ward and out of ICU. She's in a room with glass all at the front looking at us, and we're all looking in, and there's her room and then there's a little room next to it, and she's so separate from us. I waved at her, and at that point, I just pulled my mask down a little bit so she could see my face. I probably had 3 people run over and check that everything I was as covered as I could be, and I remember just standing there looking at her door for a good 30 seconds, deep breathing. And eventually it was just like, done, it's fine. She's like, any other patient, just go in and say hi. We had a great morning. She was really well, watching movies. She was sitting out of bed having brekkie. Her breathing really wasn't very difficult. And then she gradually just deteriorated within a few hours really dramatically. And it was just the most spectacularly awful thing I've probably ever witnessed. Within the hour, she couldn't get out of bed, couldn't move herself up the bed anymore. She was really starting to gasp for air. Her family was still calling, and 2 hours ago she was having normal conversations, and now she was really just listening. By the evening she was really struggling, and we were starting to talk about intubating her. She had asked me, am I going to wake up again? And you can't answer that kind of question, so the only thing you can really do is try and help them feel supported in that period of time while they're waiting.
She ended up being intubated in ICU because she desatted, so basically the oxygen level in her blood dropped, her electrolytes, so all her blood results went crazy, and her heart became quite dysfunctional. So we've known this patient for 2 years. We've been treating her 3 times a week for 365 days a year. For our team, it was really distressing to see her at the point where she required intubation, and then discussing end-of-life possibilities for her.
Doing the intubation actually went really well. We have an amazing team, and it was myself and an anaesthetist and one of our consultants in the room, and what felt like about 20 people looking in through the glass. What we now realise with COVID patients who are that dramatically unwell is they fluctuate in huge degree. So you'd have days where you call the family in the morning and go, oh, she's quite settled, and then 2 hours later you're calling them back going, look, she's really unwell, we don't know if she's going to make the end of the day.
The biggest challenge for the dialysis unit was actually trying to logistically get her from ICU to us and then back to ICU. She was the first patient to be positive and required treatment in cross wards. It was a team of around 40 to 50 people for each transfer. It was huge. The big part of our patient's recovery was the care of her doctor, Anastasia Christostomou, who's a nephrologist here at Epworth. She fought for her to the end. She fought for the medications because there were still trial drugs. She fought for different teams to get her treated. She fought for her to live.
There was a period when she went to ICU and she was going to die. It was quite clear. That I remember the Monday night she'd been on 100% oxygen, maximum inotropes. They'd thrown everything at her, and there was an article that came out in the Lancet about this drug called tocilizumab, and I thought we should try it because we've got nothing to lose, and it was almost miraculous. Like, she got this drug and she went from being on 100% oxygen, where you just knew she was going to make it, and all her inflammatory markers just melted away. And that felt good. That felt good to, you know, like advocate for her, to get her this treatment, and then she survived it.
It was really special, I guess, seeing how far she had come. She would not be aware of what had happened because they're asleep for virtually all of it, but taking her up to the ward was kind of the start of her journey to get her strength and her well-being back, and I knew that would be hard.
Seeing her get better over the weeks to when she was discharged. So the day she was discharged, it was in the afternoon. So I remember one of the managers and one of the staff got her ready to take her downstairs, and she's like, "No, I'm not going in a wheelchair, I'm walking." So she walked out, and her husband was at the exit, and he was in his full suit and he was just beaming, and that was just the best moment.